Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Brabber and alongside me is Logan Camden. And today we're going to be talking some NBA. We're going to be talking some NFL free agency. We've got a lot to get to, but we are going to start, Logan, with one of the biggest games of this regular season. What I have thought since before the year would most likely eventually be our NBA Finals matchup, that being the Thunder win over the Celtics that we saw on Wednesday. I worked all day yesterday on a pretty thorough breakdown of this game and a lot of the key strategies and matchups that we saw transpire and how I thought that would affect a potential series between these two teams. And then YouTube said, no, you can't post it. We're copyright claiming it. So hopefully that gets cleared and you guys will be able to watch that tomorrow. Wanted to have something ready to go the day after because it was such a big game. But here we are now. We'll give our analysis on the pod. So what was your biggest takeaway from that game, Logan?
I mean, I think it's what you said. I think this is a finals preview, and I think these are the two best teams in basketball. I mean, I think Oklahoma City can go toe-to-toe with this team. I think some people may look at this and say, oh, they're too young, they're not far along enough in their schedule. I think they're there with Boston. Now, I want to be clear about something. If Kristaps Porzingis is going to be healthy for a series, I think it's going to be really, really hard for me to take Oklahoma City in a 7-game series. I really do think he's the guy that puts Boston over the top, but I don't think Oklahoma City is far away or it's not going to be a competitive series. I think this goes 6 or 7 games no matter health. I think it's going to be a battle down to the finish line. First, I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was the best player on the court in the game, and that's something that I think needs to be checked for Oklahoma City to win the series. And I thought he thoroughly outplayed everybody on Boston. And
really?
Yeah, I thought
you thought
SGA
he
was
thoroughly
the best player.
outplayed Jayson Tatum?
Yeah, I thought so.
I don't agree. I thought they were neck and neck in this game.
He's just SGA's unstoppable. I think he needs to be the guy that's the best player on the series for them to win. I think that's the first box that needs to be checked. Second of all, I thought Chet Holmgren had a phenomenal game. There are some things that I think he needs to be better at. I think driving the lane, going through, dealing with contact on the interior. I thought Boston, specifically like Al Horford and Derek White, did a really good job on drives, but he was aggressive and he was confident. You know, sometimes Chet can kind of shrink sometimes if his shot isn't falling. I thought he stayed aggressive throughout this game. I thought he was looking for his shots, and I think he needs to be as aggressive as possible just because Chet really is that good. And when he's on, he's really hard to stop. Not only does he rack up 23 points, he comes away with 15 boards in this game. Like, he was just a problem on the glass. And it was also Oklahoma City's just collective defense. And that's a tenet of this team every single night. But it's so impressive, especially when they're able to do it to a team like Boston. Ball pressure, intensity, crisp rotations, wreaking havoc. Like, it's just so impressive. Like, one possession where Tatum gets trapped on, like, the right wing, and he makes the exact right pass to Luke Cornett on the short roll, and as he's making the pass, the guy is already there with help. I think it was Kenrich Williams. But just like little stuff like that where you speed Tatum up, you force a turnover. Oklahoma City, in my opinion, is better at doing that than anybody else. This is such a well-coached team. They're so well-connected on defense, and I think they forced some bad Boston tendencies. I think they had a cold shooting night. I really don't expect Boston to shoot that poorly throughout a 7-game series. I tend to think that the pendulum is going to swing back in their favor. But if they have an off shooting night, that has definitely advantaged Boston. And then they were able to stifle Jaylen Brown all night, really. In a really shocking way. I mean, I thought Oklahoma City's top 2 outplayed Boston's top 2 in that game, and that was a huge component. Like, SGA and Chet combined outplayed Tatum and JB. And so I think all of that went in Oklahoma City's favor. And, you know, they interviewed SGA at the end of the game, and they asked him, and he was like, you know, we're growing up right in front of your eyes. I think they're grown. I don't think this team is like, I know we get enamored with how young they are and what the future could look like for this team. And I think it's very promising, but I don't want their future to kind of cloud over what they are right now. And what they are right now, I think, is the best team in the Western Conference and a bona fide championship contender that has a very good chance at winning the finals this year.
Very, very good chance. And I picked OKC to win the title before the year. I have never moved off that. Now, what I have said is that Boston is the safest title pick because they are so overwhelmingly talented and because they don't have really any question marks whatsoever. But OKC has a couple superpowers. And One of those is SGA being at the level individually that he is at right now as a top 3 player on the planet. But the other is that this is such a completely dominant team defense. And the way in which that was most impactful in this game, and to me would be most impactful in a hypothetical final series between these two teams, is in their ability to defend Jaylen Brown better than anybody else in basketball. This is a nightmare matchup for Jaylen Brown. And you've seen that across 2 meetings this year where he's put up 15 points per game against OKC on 38% shooting. He has as many turnovers as he does assists. The first major problem that they present for him is that they have the most active hands of any defense I've ever seen. Like, incredible hands. They attack the ball. They're so fast. They're so feisty. They're forcing the most turnovers we've seen from any defense in the last 5 years. They're so aggressive. That's a problem for Jaylen Brown, who, as we all know, is not a strong ball handler. And so you see multiple instances across both of these meetings where he's trying to handle and he's just not comfortable. He either gets the ball taken from him, and that's a turnover, or he turns his back to the basket because he's not comfortable handling against all this ball pressure and activity from Oklahoma City's perimeter defenders. And once he's turned his back to the basket from the perimeter, you've won if you're the defense, because he's either going to pass out, he's going to settle for a tough turnaround. Like, they're all the exact outcomes that you want. So he's not comfortable initiating from the perimeter as a ball handler. What does he turn to then? He wants to be able to attack mismatches out of the post, which is where he is most effective as a scorer in the half court. He is this big, bruising wing who really can play bully ball against a ton of wings. And if you can get him good post position, well, then you eliminate the need for him to handle and deal with all that pressure on the perimeter. The problem is, OKC is the single hardest team in basketball to mismatch attack against because they don't play any small guards. They play a bunch of athletic, feisty, really good defensive wings. And even the slider guys who they do play, Aaron Wiggins, Cason Wallace, Jaylen Brown was trying to post those guys up and he just couldn't. They were doing such a great job fighting for position. And that includes the smallest guy who OKC does play, Isaiah Joe, who is like 6'4", 180 something. He is a smaller slider wing. He was doing such a great job of fighting for position. They could not get the ball to Jaylen Brown. They couldn't complete an entry pass. So you get multiple turnovers trying to feed him with these quote unquote mismatches. And then they just stop trying to get him the ball in the post. So he's not comfortable handling. You can't get him the ball in the post to play bully ball, which is what he wants to do and what he's best at. He, at a few points, was able to kind of force some drives over these couple games, but OKC does such a phenomenal job of helping, and they're maybe the best rim protecting defense in basketball, that when Jaylen is forcing these drives into traffic, like, he's not getting clean looks at the rim, and so he's struggling to finish as well. So you're taking away all the things that he wants to do when you can basically turn him into a jump shooter in this matchup. And Jaylen Brown is not a good jump shooter this year. He's a 24th percentile efficiency guy on all jump shots. So that is a big win for the Oklahoma City defense, not just for Jaylen's individual production, but because the Boston offense in so many ways is built upon the ability of both of the Jays, Tatum and Brown, to find defensive weak points and attack them and either get a bucket themselves or create an advantage, draw help, play the drive and kick game, find an open shooter. And as we know, Boston has the most aggregate three-point shooting skill of any roster that we've ever seen. When Jaylen can't create advantages, he can't score efficiently. He's not creating for others, but he still is prone to being something of a ball stopper and forcing the issue some. So it's a real problem for Boston if he can't be better in this matchup. Will he be better than he was in this individual game? Sure, this was a particularly bad one, but I think there's no question that OKC is built to make life really hard on him, to take away his strengths. That's my biggest takeaway here, because I think that he is one of the key players in this series. And then on the other side, I think that Chet Holmgren is probably the biggest key for Oklahoma City. So in terms of their key defensive objective, that is giving Jaylen Brown hell, OKC nailed that. And then their key offensive objective, that being unlocking Chet Holmgren, they nailed that. And I think the version of Chet that we got offensively in this game makes Oklahoma City damn near unbeatable, because Chet came out the gates this year and he was playing so well offensively, but then he had the injury and he's been trying to find that pre-injury form since he came back. J-Dub goes down. We don't have a timetable on his return yet, so that adds some pressure in this game and going forward until J-Dub returns on Chet to now step up as more of a consistent high-end offensive presence, and he did exactly that in this game. I thought that the most significant stretch for OKC offensively was the first 4.5 minutes of the second quarter when Shai is off the court and they are running their double big look with Hartenstein and Chet, and they ran every half-court possession through one of those bigs and at times both of those bigs, and they scored on 7 straight half-court possessions. They're running 4 or 5 pick and roll with Hartenstein screening for Chet, and Chet's able to find him off the roll, and Hartenstein can use his strength and touch to finish. They're running handoffs through Hartenstein for Chet, who's able to knock down an above the break 3. It's incredible the ability of those two to complement each other with both of their passing skill, with Hartenstein's strength as a screener, and then with Chet's really unique perimeter skill set. So that was extremely exciting to me because we've only seen a pretty limited sample so far of these two playing together because of injuries. But when they do play together, the Thunder have a 126 offensive rating in those minutes, which is huge because you know they're going to be elite defensively with those double big looks. If they can be elite offensively too, well, then that just gives them like another phenomenal option in terms of their lineup versatility, which I don't think anybody can match. If they're going Chet out there as the lone big, Hartenstein out there as the lone big, double big, in short stretches, they could even still go true small ball if they want. They just have so much talent and they have so many options. And if Chet can consistently be like a 20-point per game scorer for them, that just answers one of the key questions, really the only question about this team, which is, are they going to get consistent enough offensive production from guys other than Shai? J-Dub will be really important in that equation. The totality of the spot-up shooting will be important in that equation. But Chet is a guy who has an incredible ability to be a ceiling raiser for them when he's aggressive offensively, when his shot is falling, when he's confident as a driver. And you mentioned wanting to see him improve a bit dealing with some of those drives in traffic.
Those congested lanes, yeah.
I agree. Because I think specifically mismatch attacking is an area where you want to see him get better. Like he had one nice drive on Derek White in this game where he was able to punish them for guarding him with the small. And then he had another one when Derek White stuffed him.
What's really strange too is I noticed that Chet always looks really confident when he's shooting 3-pointers. Like anytime he steps into one, he looks really, but he doesn't have that same confidence driving the lane. You can kind of tell, and I think that's something that's going to open up everything for Oklahoma City, because you're talking about Jaylen Brown and how Oklahoma City has this wealth of defenders to throw at him to slow him down, and I don't think that's changing. I think Oklahoma City has so many different guys that like.
Right, they didn't have J-Dub or Caruso in this game.
Yeah,
and Kaysen gave him hell, and
Kayson's
everybody did a good job on him.
Kayson's the man, but
he is, dude.
That's Boston, one of Boston's superpowers, right? We always talk about it. It's the 3-point shooting and it's the mismatch attacking. Well, if you can take away one of those superpowers with Oklahoma City's kryptonite, if you will, being that wealth of defenders that they have, I think that's a real advantage that Chet could have on Boston, where not that Chet is unstoppable, and I don't want to paint that picture out to be, but there are things that I think he can exploit if he gets switched onto a guard where, and don't get me wrong, White and Holiday are great guards that I think can slow him down a little bit, but he has such a massive size advantage that I don't really think they can do anything about it if Chet really picks his spots well, and I think that's a real big advantage that Oklahoma City has that could swing the series in their favor if that box gets checked.
It's not all about Chet exploiting that matchup as a driver to me. I'd like to see him able to consistently do that, but it's also hard, right? You're dealing with these low center of gravity, strong, feisty guards with great hands.
But even,
and you're a 7-footer. It's not super easy to handle and drive in those circumstances.
It's not, but even if they can get those switches and just get the ball to him on the low block where, like not even he has to drive and create the space himself, right? But if they just give him an entry pass onto the low block, even if he's missing layups initially, it's like he has such a size advantage, he could just grab it and put it right back up. I think that's something that could really help Oklahoma City get some easy offense.
Well, that's what I was going to get to. I thought Chet actually did a really good job of taking advantage of them guarding him with the small, because OKC is going double big and Boston is just playing a lone big. not through mismatch attacking, but through his work on the glass, and especially the offensive glass. Chet has 15 rebounds in this game. He has 4 offensive rebounds, and I believe he either scored or got fouled after every single one of them. So it was a huge performance from him, seeing him back in that form that I know that he's capable of, that he just has to consistently maintain offensively. I will say, though, another takeaway of this game to me was just that Jayson Tatum is by so far the best that he's ever been. And I thought that OKC did a hell of a job on Jaylen Brown, and I think that they have a ton of answers for Jaylen Brown. I think that Tatum is at that level offensively now where nobody can really give him that much trouble. It's kind of going to be self-imposed, like if he goes cold as a pull-up shooter, but he's just gotten so good as a playmaker, and I do think that he's having a really good scoring season as well. They threw a bunch of different coverages at him. They were playing drop against him, and he was consistently finding Horford off the pop, or if he could have a screen set really high for him, he was hunting a pull-up 3. They were switching against him, and Chet actually did an excellent job of switching onto Tatum. Mark Jones, man. Sometimes for a play-by-play guy gives a little too much of his opinions, and sometimes they're bad opinions. Like every time Chet got switched on him, he was like, a little bit of food for Tatum, and it's like, no, Tatum went like 1 of 4 or 1 of 5 when Chet was switched on to him.
It's so funny that you say that. I was going to text you that he said that, but you said you were listening to it with the audio off, so I didn't even bother. But that one pissed me off to no end, because then Tatum just passed the ball, and I'm like, Are you going to walk it back, Mark?
I mean, Tatum was either taking pretty tough pull-up jumpers. He traveled the one time. Like, Chet can really move in space, man. Chet is a special defensive player. But Tatum was able to do better against the smaller wings who they switched on to him when they had a guard screen for Tatum or they had Tatum screen for a guard. Those guys still fought. I mean, Cason Wallace had a great possession pushing him out, forcing him to settle for a mid-range jumper, but Tatum's shot making was really good in this game. So he still held up decently well against the switches. And then they were deploying a zone against Boston. And I thought that Tatum was just phenomenal against the zone. He can bring to him by calling for a ball screen, shift the zone in his direction, and then boom, swing a pass to the opposite wing. It's Derek White. He's an elite shooter. He can drive and kick against the zone when it collapses on him, find a shooter. Like, he just is at that level where he's thinking the game at a really high level. He's so composed, and OKC varied their coverages, and they're a great defense, and they put that pressure on him to consistently make good decisions and make tough shots. And he made a lot of good decisions, and he made a lot of big-time shots in this game. So I've just been so impressed by his performance, especially against the other elite competition. You think about the performance that he had against Cleveland, the game that he had against the Lakers, this game. Like, these are all just within the last couple weeks. Some real signature performances offensively against really good teams. I went and pulled his numbers versus the other top 6 teams in the league by record this year. Tatum's averaging 29.5 points, 9 rebounds, 6.7 assists on 58.5% true shooting in 14 games. And if you just look at how he's fared against the 2 other tier 1 contenders, in my opinion, that being OKC and Cleveland, he's gone for 32, 10, and 6 on 58% true shooting in 6 games. So, like, the scoring efficiency isn't crazy. It never really is for Tatum, but it's solid. The scoring volume is super impressive. The playmaking is excellent. When they're throwing a bunch of different coverages at him, he's kept the turnovers low. He has just so clearly ascended to me from where he was at last year. Like, if Tatum had that sort of clunker of a scoring run, I'd be really surprised. Even though I think he was doing the right stuff as a playmaker last year and had already leveled up from previous seasons, I think he's taken another level up this year. And I think that he and Shai went toe-to-toe in this game. I didn't think that was the difference. I thought the difference was Chet was awesome. Jaylen was bad. Boston didn't shoot their best. And I thought the totality of OKC's role players did a really nice job. I thought in terms of a superstar battle, both dudes were awesome, and they basically played to a draw.
I thought SGA outplayed him, and I don't know. I know you went and rewatched it. I felt that SGA outplayed him during the first watch through for me. So I don't know. I get that you feel differently, but I mean, also the Celtics were man down there at the end. I mean, not only does Jaylen Brown foul out, Derek White fouls out too, right, in this game. Like, I think they both end up closing
At like the
without
very
them.
last second.
Yeah.
It was just Jaylen, but did you want Jaylen on the floor if you're Boston for the last 3 minutes? I don't know.
You know, Carson, and that's probably going to be a determinant in me for picking this finals is what Jaylen Brown we get. And I think a lot of people just take for granted Jaylen Brown is a guy that can dominate in a lot of different matchups against a lot of different teams because he has these athletic and physical advantages that teams don't have an answer for. The only thing about it is I think Oklahoma City does have an answer for him, right? It's like, and that's my thing, is it's like, all right, on average, Jaylen Brown can do this and this, but what does he look like against matchups that aren't ideal for him? I don't think Jaylen Brown is a guy who has a ton of counters for easy offense when you have guys that can physically match up against him. He's not a really good shooter, he's not a really good ball handler, and he's not a really good playmaker. I think he's improved in some of those areas. Like, I think he's improved as a playmaker and ball handler this year. It's pretty marginal. I think he's regressed a little bit as a shooter, if anything. Yeah. And so it's like, that's the way you get easy offense for yourself. And I just think in a series like this, where, again, he can't attack any mismatches, he can't get any of that really easy stuff, there's no weak point for him to exploit. And that's one of the big points about this Boston matchup against Oklahoma City. Right, you're only as good as your weakest defender. You're only as good as your weakest link. Oklahoma City doesn't have a weak link that you can expose.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, could prove really, really problematic in this matchup. I'm really excited. This is one of my favorite games of the year. I really hope that we get this as the finals. Not that I'm going to feel shortchanged if we get another matchup. I honestly keep moving closer and closer to, I think we're just going to be blessed with whatever matchup we get. I think it's going to be a really good game. But I'm hopeful that it's Boston and Oklahoma City just because these do feel like the most talented teams. And I hope Oklahoma City's at full strength because I do think that J-Dub's absence could be another thing that hurts them. And I just mean when we're getting to the margins of the NBA Finals, a Jalen Williams injury could be the thing that leaves Oklahoma City just that bit short for them. But this is one of the games of the year to me, man. This was a war from start to finish. Even with Jaylen Brown's struggles, I mean, this game came down to the wire.
It was a really good one, and I do think that you have to give props to what Shai did do for Oklahoma City in this game because he was excellent. Tatum was excellent too, and that has been really, really impressive, the level that he's been at, but I obviously still think that Shai is the better player, and I think that offensively Shai is just one of the greatest that we've seen, and as a scorer, nobody could do anything with him on an island in this game, so he still gives you his efficient 34 and was good as a playmaker too. Now, Boston was able to force him into 5 turnovers. I thought they did a great job of applying ball pressure on him. I thought that they also did a nice job of mixing up coverages. They were super aggressive, helping on his drives. They had Tatum send a couple of just surprise doubles at him, which I actually really like. We've seen teams in recent weeks fully just like trapping Shai at half court, but he starts getting used to that. He sees it coming. You just throw a double at him from nowhere and like, it's something that can work on occasion. Now, they did it another time, and he was able to diagnose it and find the open shooter. They also mixed in a 3-2 zone that was slanted towards him, so he's making the right decisions against the zone. He's getting the ball out to shooters, but you put the pressure on those shooters to make shots. You take the ball out of Shai's hands. OKC's offense only produced 10 points against 14 possessions of zone in that game. So I do think that that's a good strategy for Boston. We've talked about how OKC's offense actually has been quite efficient against the zone, even though it feels like they go through some lulls. But I do like anybody basically at least mixing it in there. So I do think that Shai has the superstar best player on the floor edge in this series. But I think that Tatum is at the point where it's like I expect him to go out there and ball out every night as well. So I do think that supporting casts are going to have a really, really big role in this series. And that's where, like, it definitely matters for both these teams that they're down an all-star. J-Dub is not in this series. You're down an elite defender. You're down your second creator offensively for OKC. And Kristaps Porzingis could really change things in this matchup to me. Because if there is one guy who could really produce outside of Jayson Tatum against this OKC defense, if they are switching everything, then it would be KP. Because his ability as a mismatch attacker is just on a totally different level than Jalen. He's 7'3". He's an elite jump shooter. He's learned to play with more physicality and draw fouls out of the post at an elite rate over the last couple years. Could be that OKC is still so feisty and they're so gritty and they're so determined to fight for position that like they're able to push him a little further out and make him live on a little bit of a tougher shot diet. That's possible. I would be much more worried about Kristaps Porzingis and how we stop him if I'm OKC's defense than I would be with Jaylen Brown, just because I think they've shown they defend Jaylen so well. And maybe it's that they start sending doubles at KP. Maybe they just will not switch any of their wings onto him. We'll see. But it's so hard to attack anybody on this defense. Like, the only guy who I could see getting attacked in a playoff series is Isaiah Joe, even though he held up really well in this game. And they don't have to play Isaiah Joe. Like, it's nice to have his shooting, but when you are fully healthy and you have, again, Caruso and J-Dub who are not available in this game, they just have so much depth. They're not overly dependent on having really any one of those role guys available. They have, again, so many options. So I think they clearly have the best chance to beat Boston, and that is just about their ability to defend them at such a high level. I think that if you can really give Jaylen Brown fits like they have, limit that mismatch attacking, you do take out a significant chunk of Boston's offense, especially if Jaylen, again, is still going to force the issue some. Cleveland, I love their offense. They're so dynamic. They just can't take the Boston offense out of rhythm in that way. And that's what anybody is going to have to do to beat them. So the KP factor does change this, but I'd feel good about picking OKC to win this series. Boston can shoot better, absolutely. I also thought that although Boston missed a few more wide open threes than they would on average, OKC also did a really good job of rotating and flying around and challenging a lot of those threes. And the guys who are missing, it's like Jaylen Brown. Well, you want him shooting threes. He's had a bad three-point shooting season. Drew, I think, will shoot the basketball better, but he's been having a bad three-point shooting season. So you're willing to live with some of the threes that they're getting. And I will just say, in line with that, the free throw discourse after this game made me crazy because, like, Boston took the third most threes in a game in NBA history. Oklahoma City, including fouls, took 46 shots in the paint. Boston took 24. If you are attempting double the paint field goals, you're going to have way more free throws. It's just that simple, especially when there's a couple instances of Boston just recklessly closing out and fouling jump shooters in this game that are, like, undeniably fouls. I get it. Shai was doing a little bit of foul grifting in this game, I will say, like, more so than usual. The one clip that's been going around is a foul where Jalen's hand checking him and he gets caught with his hand in the cookie jar. But Shai was doing some flailing around. But he also didn't get calls on a couple of them. Like the one at the end of the half. Didn't get a call, just made the shot. The Peyton Pritchard drive where he just flailed, that was bad from Shai. But he didn't get the call. So I do think a lot of that discourse is confirmation bias. And generally, free throw differentials are explained by shot diet, by who's getting all the way downhill, by who's living on more of a jump shot heavy diet. And I think that that is very much the case in this one.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I think in general, one, I blame the refs more than I do the players. I think the players are always going to try to bait, and I don't like it either. I don't like any unnatural motion or herky-jerky or flopping. I would still put it on the refs' car. I think it's their fault more than anybody else. Like, I think it's on them to determine that's not a foul. He's flopping. Like, moreover than anything else, the players are going to try to grift because they want to get to the line. They want free points. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Two, I think we've talked about this a few times on the show at this point, but I think we mentioned it on the show with Rusty Buckets, but of any 30-point per game or 32-point per game scorer, I think it was the exact stat, Shai is attempting the third least free throws of any of them, and so it's like it just gets so overblown, and I think people just hate new things or they hate change or something, Carson. I don't really get it because, again, SGA plays basketball like a gazelle, like an antelope. He has such a graceful style of play. And I don't like foul grifting across the board if it's Trae Young doing it, if it's Austin Reeves, if it's SGA, if it's whoever. Again, I don't normally blame on the player. I put that at the feet of the refs, and it's their job to make better calls, but I don't know, man. I just don't get when there's a new kid on the block and we all got to hate him. First it was Jokic and now it's SGA, and it's like, damn, man, can we just like love and appreciate these guys and stop hating on them? Just an idea, just a thought.
You know, I agree, especially because Shai is such a mystifying scorer to watch. I mean, just the way he moves, his change in pace, his shiftiness, his balance, his footwork, his finishing as a driver, and then also his shot making. And, like, all of that stuff was incredible in this game. He has a couple of finishes that are just like, holy shit. He has a couple of just beautiful turnarounds that he makes over top of Peyton Pritchard. Like, it was a beautiful scoring performance from him and a very efficient shot making performance. I do think it was a bit unfortunate that this was like such a massive national TV game because people have these preconceived notions about Shai, and I thought that might have been the most egregious foul baiting that he's done this year. So just from that perspective, I'm kind of bummed because obviously then people will run with that. But the fact that that's like one of the main talking points coming out of this game, it just sucks because this was an awesome basketball game. I thought he was great. I thought Tatum was great. I thought Chet was great. And it was a ton of fun. And like you say, big picture, I mean, with the rate at which he drives, the rate at which he scores the ball with such volume, he's not in any way getting to the line at an outlier rate. And if we were going to try to find the face of foul grifting in the league today, it's not him. I mean, it literally might be Austin Reeves or it's Jalen Brunson. To me, those are the two most egregious foul baiters in basketball right now. It's not Shai. That game was a ton of fun. Hopefully, you guys will be able to get even more of my analysis on it when this video comes out tomorrow, but we covered a lot of the bases here. I do think this would be one of the best finals matchups that we've seen in a long time. OKC is a historic team. Like you mentioned, people focusing on their youth or like any of the potential flaws that you could point out with them and overlooking the fact that they're 54-12 and they're second in net rating and their historic defense with a guy who's probably going to win MVP leading the charge at one of the highest guard peaks that we've ever seen. And their depth is amazing. And they have a unicorn talent in Chet Holmgren. Like OKC is unbelievable and they continue to cement that. Against elite competition, they've been better than anybody. I think against the other top 6 teams in basketball, they're now 11-3 with like more than a plus 10 net rating. So they've done it against the best of the best, man. I don't really know what else anybody needs to see to prove that it translates. Let's talk about another team in the Northwest Division that has been hot, Logan, who played right after OKC on national TV Wednesday night and picked up a big win. The Minnesota Timberwolves are currently in a battle to get out of the play-in. Both them and the Warriors just refuse to lose. But they have won 6 straight. Are they a real threat in the West?
The Timberwolves aren't a real threat in the sense that they're a championship contender, but I think they pose matchup problems for a lot of teams. I mean, specifically against Denver, I do worry about Denver in that matchup, just with how Gobert can stick with Jokic in single coverage, the bevy of defenders. I just mean that... Shut up. You know what I mean. Like this fucking guy. I'm sorry I didn't suck Jokic off again today. My bad, bro. Like, damn, man. Like,
well, I'm just saying he can't. I mean, like, yeah. I guess
nobody can, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
they can stick one guy on him better than most teams can because he's Rudy Gobert. You knew what I meant, and I think the people are smart enough to. Nobody can guard Jokic in single coverage, but
I'm just saying that's not where this is a problematic matchup to me. It's on the other side of the ball.
Well, yeah, and that's what makes this thing interesting is because I think that it's been what's weird about this run. Gobert's only played in 2 games during their last 10, and their offensive rating is 122.9. Like they've kind of been flourishing in this like 5-out system that they've been running offensively. And that is where I do want to give some credit to guys on the offensive end of the floor. One, Julius Randle. Now, Julius Randle is a polarizing basketball player. And the thing about him is it's never been the talent. It's like when you look at the guy on talent, I mean, you have some jackasses on Twitter that compare him to LeBron because of the physicals, and it's like, all right, bro, let's settle down. But
Julius Randle?
Yeah, there are some people, believe it or not, man. Julius has never been short on talent, right? The mismatch attacking, the strength, what he could be theoretically. Theoretical Julius Randle's a really great basketball player. It's always been mental. And that is where I want to commend Julius for what he's been doing offensively. Being more selfless with the ball, looking to move the rock when he touches it for the first time. Randle's a guy that, for the majority of his career, and people get angry when you criticize him for how he plays, but it's like for the majority of his career, he's been a guy that when he catches it, he's going to attack. He is looking for his shot. He wants to shoot the ball. I think he's been a little bit more selfless during this run, looking to initiate for guys first, and maybe not even creating assists, but just passing the ball initially and seeing what you can find. I do think he's also done a good job of mismatch attacking, and he's been more efficient recently. The other guy offensively I want to give credit to is Jaden McDaniels, who I think throughout this year has just been playing better offensive basketball. He looks more confident. He looks better in transition. Like, old Jaden McDaniels was kind of scared offensively. I don't really get that. I look at a guy that's confident, that is okay with shooting the ball, that is okay with handling, that is just more comfortable attacking. Over the last 10 games, he's 18, 8, and 3 on 52, 35, 95 splits while providing elite defense. And a lot of these lineups have come with Naz Reid. So what's confusing to me about the Timberwolves, Carson, is I don't know if that's a positive or a negative. The fact that they have multiple looks that they can go to that I think are deadly with this offensive-oriented system with Gobert off the floor, or this defensive-oriented system with Gobert. I just kind of have a love-hate thing with Gobert where, like, I know he does great, but I also wonder, would this be an offensive haven if Gobert just wasn't on this team? I go between that a lot. But the good things, there's a lot of positives, I think, to take away. Like, DiVincenzo is playing better basketball. Jaden McDaniels, I think, has had a real leap. I think Julius Randle is making a commitment to playing winning basketball. Anthony Edwards is still the man. And Naz Reid looks as great as he always does. And yeah, I think they can beat a lot of teams out west. I do just think that they're going to come up short against some of the top-tier teams. But this is the most encouraged I've been about the Timberwolves. And at the start of the year when I wasn't hitting the panic button like everybody else, this is kind of what I was hoping was going to come to fruition at some point in this season. And luckily it has. Over the last 10, they're fourth in offensive rating, they're top 10 in defensive rating, and they're fourth in net rating. Like, if there was going to be a time to figure it out, this is it. And a lot of things are going a lot better than they were in the early half of this year. So it's encouraging, and I do think that they pose a lot of matchup problems for teams despite not being a real contender.
They're definitely playing good basketball. And like I said, they've won 6 straight. Now, this is an insanely light stretch of the schedule that they've been on and they are going to be on. The only win out of those 6 versus a team that's really even close to 500 is Denver, who I do think they are a matchup problem for. I think that they own Denver right now. They guard Jamal really well, but the big thing is just that Ant gets what he wants in this matchup. And Minnesota has a 127 offensive rating against Denver in 3 meetings this year. I do think some of that is like Denver has just had 2 pathetic efforts against Minnesota where they show up and it seems like they just are disinterested in playing basketball from the start. And this is the team that knocked you out of the playoffs last year. Like, you should have pride for that matchup. And instead it's just like lazy defensive efforts in transition, not closing out. Disappointing, again, in line with that sort of weird vibe that Denver has had in too many games this year. But even if they are engaged, Ant really, really matches up well against them because they have nobody who can do anything with him at the point of attack. And he just abuses Jokic's lack of rim protection. Like, this is the matchup in which Ant is most aggressive downhill, which is when I think he's at his best. We saw it in the playoff series last year. I think we've seen it again in their regular season matchups this year. So Minnesota's 3-0 against Denver this year. That is a matchup that if I were Denver, I would want to avoid in the first round. And there are absolutely things that are very much trending in the right direction for Minnesota. You mentioned Jaden McDaniels just looks like a different player than he was at the start of the year. Since February 1st, that's his last 19 games, he's giving you 18, 8, and 3 on over 59% true shooting. Before February 1st, that was the first 40 games of the year, he was a 10.5 point per game guy on 55% true shooting. He hasn't been shooting any better from deep in this stretch. I would like to see him improve as a spot-up shooter. I don't think that that's just going to miraculously happen this year. He's been like a consistent 33, 34% guy from deep, but he's been finishing super efficiently at the rim, and he's really, really shown a nice floater game. He shot 55% on floaters, so he just looks more comfortable attacking off the bounce, attacking closeouts, and either getting all the way to the rim or getting to that little floater in the lane. So he's playing much better. Dante DiVincenzo, who had a weirdly bad start to the year, he's been on a heater in March. He's shooting 52% from deep in the month of March. So he's an offensive weapon that they really hoped would be an impact guy, wasn't early in the year, and now is being that guy. And obviously, like, the depth is good here with those guys and with Gilgeous-Alexander Walker and, of course, Naz Reid. And the team defense here is really, really good. It's not what it was last year, but they're still 7th in defensive rating.
Has N.A. has he reached that like superstar role player tier to you yet?
That's a good question. I don't know if I could go superstar role player.
I don't know if he's like,
I'd say hell of a role player.
I don't know if he's like DFS level, but I would love N.A. in my rotation as like the 7th or 6th guy.
I'd love him too, man. I mean, hell of a point of attack defender, leaves it all out there. When he's shooting 40% from 3, then maybe he is in that class. The thing is, last year in the playoffs, his three ball was not nearly consistent enough, and he ended up under 30%.
I think I'm just more confident in him this year, I think.
He's a really good player, and depth is a strength for this team. The thing is, I still just don't like the configuration of their big three. And in the minutes that their big three, that being Ant, Randall, and Gobert, have played together, the Timberwolves are a plus 1.7 net rating team. Like, they're just a very, very average team when their three quote-unquote best guys are all on the floor. And I think you touched on it a bit, but it feels like with any combination of these guys, you're either sacrificing something offensively, trying to play Randall and Gobert together, or you're sacrificing a lot defensively when you take Gobert off the floor. And so you just end up sort of in this spot where, like, no matter what, you're an above average but not a great team when you have your best players on the floor. And I do have some concerns about Minnesota. This isn't just the reality for their big three. Like, their entire starting five, it's the second most played lineup in the NBA this year, only behind the Knicks starting five. And they only have a plus 1.6 net rating together. Very, very average. I do think it is still a poorly constructed offensive starting five, because you are putting Ant, who is now this elite pull-up shooter and this elite downhill guard, with a complete non-shooter and just offensive negative in Rudy Gobert, a 33% three-point shooter in Jaden McDaniels, a 32% three-point shooter in Julius Randle, who is prone to stopping the ball, and a guy who now cannot score inside the arc in Mike Conley. He's just regressed athletically to the point where, like, his entire shot diet is from beyond the arc. He shoots 36% on two-pointers this year. So I still think, although they are statistically an above-average offense, you get them in a playoff series, teams are going to load up on Ant. They are going to test his playmaking. I thought he had a really good playmaking game against Denver on Wednesday, but is he consistent there? No. Does he consistently trust his teammates? No. So they are absolutely right to test his playmaking. Now, I don't know that you could consider baiting him into a bunch of pull-up jumpers a win anymore, just with how good he is as a pull-up shooter. He's one of the best pull-up three-point shooters in basketball, but you can limit his driving, where I do think he is still at his best overall. He's just such a special athlete downhill. And then I don't trust Julius Randle alongside him as your offensive number two. He's literally the biggest playoff dropper in NBA history. We have seen it too many times where he relies on the tough shot making and it falls apart, and he can be a black hole and his playmaking falls apart. You send doubles at him and he gives you more turnovers than assists. And I just still don't like that offensive formula. It concerns me too much. That's why I can't consider them a real threat in the West. Do they pose certain matchup problems? Sure. I don't think that I could pick them to win a series right now, though. But what I will say is, they're going to rack up some wins here, because I mentioned the light stretch of the schedule they've been on. They have by far the easiest remaining strength of schedule in the West. So, like, we might be at a point where they end up seated higher than the Lakers, dude. They're 3.5 games back now. The Lakers are about to go on a little, like, 6 games in 8 days stretch against good teams. They're obviously down LeBron. The T-Wolves are just going to keep on winning. The Lakers are probably going to lose some. That's something to watch, the movement in the seeding, to me.
If they ended up with Denver in the first round, would you pick them to win?
I would pick Denver in 7, because I wouldn't trust Minnesota's offense around Ant enough. I think Ant would have a hell of a scoring series. I mean, I think what they would do is they would play their normal pick and roll covers. They send two to the ball a lot, and they would just try to force him to beat them with playmaking and force the other Timberwolves offensive players to beat them. And I think that's probably a good enough strategy with the limitations of the guys around him. And I do think that although Jamal has struggled against them, when he's right physically, which he obviously was not in the playoff series last year, he had the calf thing, and he was also just terrible as a shot maker. That was the worst basketball Jamal Murray's ever played. This version of Jamal, I think, can do enough offensively. And listen, I wasn't trying to downplay Rudy Gobert defensively, because I think that Rudy Gobert does as good a job on Jokic as just about anybody. And I think we've seen so much stupid discourse of people saying, oh, how can he be a 4-time defensive player of the year? Jokic gives him buckets in single coverage, or he won't even guard Jokic in single coverage, when we know that's the reality for everybody. He did it to Anthony Davis. He did it to Bam Adebayo. He's done it to Victor Wembanyama. Nobody can stop Jokic in single coverage. The reason that I think Rudy in single coverage is not the best answer on him is because that's never the best answer for guarding Jokic, in my opinion. They had a great formula last year, which was Cat as the primary post defender, Rudy roaming. That to me was a much more effective formula that they did give up when they moved off of Cat. So they're a tough matchup for Denver. I still think Denver's a better basketball team. But if I were Minnesota, that's the first round matchup I'd want to draw if they're going to be a lower seed. Although, I don't know, actually. Maybe just Memphis, because Memphis isn't as good a team. But, like, in terms of the pure matchup, Denver is a good one for Minnesota. I think they definitely like that matchup.
I'd take Minnesota.
You take Minnesota to win that series?
I think they have an answer for Jamal. I don't think they have an answer for Ant. I don't know. There's a lot.
On Julius Randle being consistent enough as a number 2, though?
Damn.
I know, man. That's the thing. Because you can have a good Julius Randle stretch in the regular season, and then you come crashing back to reality.
I'm not getting God.
Yeah.
Julius Randle is not getting me. And if he does get me, I'm not even going to be mad.
I mean, it's just smart money to bet against playoff Julius Randle, in my opinion. So that's what I would do. But if I were Denver, I would not want to see them in the first round.
Also,
even though I think the Warriors rank a little higher as a team than Minnesota, I'd be much more scared of Minnesota than the Warriors if I'm Denver.
I do think Aaron Gordon makes a big difference when he's back too.
Yeah, Aaron Gordon makes a difference for Denver on both sides of the ball, and they're not the same team without him. But I don't want to talk MVP. The one thing that I will say, as a huge Jokic fan, obviously, that it annoys me when people just overlook an MVP race, is the number of nights that Jokic has basically taken off defensively this year. I think some people do this disingenuous thing where they act as though, oh, Jokic is a bum defensively, and they pick out his worst moments. We have obviously seen that he can defend at a solid level when he wants to. Look at the title run in 2023. Look at any high-stakes defensive moment, really. But that doesn't mean that his regular season defensive effort is always maximizing his value. And there's been more nights this year than in recent regular seasons where he is just too apathetic on that end. And I think that is something that bears considering, even as he is obviously having the greatest offensive season ever. Speaking of offensive GOATs, Logan, Steph Curry hit his 4,000th career three last night, which is just unbelievable. Now, it was a quiet game for him, but 4,000 threes is ridiculous. And I've seen a lot of discourse of people asking if anybody anywhere has ever been as good at anything as Steph Curry is at shooting threes. So that got me thinking it would be pretty fun if we did an NBA Superpower Draft. So like what you have with Steph's three ball, we just take the guys who have that one super special trait and we try to get the most stacked team. Now, we're not trying to build a roster here or anything. We're just trying to get as many superpowers on one team as we can. So we'll do a quick draft. We both got 5 picks. Should we do rock, paper, scissors to determine who goes number 1, Logan?
Who gets Steph shooting, I guess?
It's going to be Steph shooting. I mean, that's the point of the
you want to do best
draft.
of 3 or best of 1?
Well, let's just do one game of rock, paper, scissors. All right, we're going on shoot?
Yeah.
All right. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. All right, you got me. I didn't even have it on camera. I was playing paper though.
I put up scissors. I'm gonna take Dennis Smith Jr. slinging that wood in his pants. Let's go.
Oh man.
I'm taking Mitch Trubisky's ability to kiss titties, man. I'm crushing this draft.
Yeah, dude.
Give me Steph shooting, man.
That's a hell of a fucking pick. You're taking Danny Green's ability to visit a concentration camp and post an insensitive picture.
I'm taking Eric Bledsoe's ability to not want to be here anymore.
Not want to be here anymore, bro. I'm going to take Shaq's rim pressure. I feel like that's the obvious.
We're doing all time? I thought we were doing active NBA players.
Oh, let's do all time. Let's do all time.
Shit, my big board is fucked.
Well, you're going to have to think on the fly. I mean, I don't have a super detailed board here, but I think kind of the only comparable thing maybe to Steph's three-point shooting is just having Shaq's ability to be completely unguardable in the paint to the point where you're triple teaming him, you're double teaming him off ball routinely. Give me that. We'll do a fixed draft here, by the way, just so we aren't doing double pick after double pick.
All right, I'm gonna take Wemby's frame. Does that count?
Ooh, yeah, I think that counts.
I'm gonna take Wemby's frame. 7'3", 8-foot wingspan.
Are you accounting for the mobility in that? Because otherwise, I'd be
I
like,
think
take
so.
Manute Bol. All right, that's fair. That's a solid pick. I'm going to take Bill Russell's rim protection.
That's a great pick.
To me, it's actually maybe the most impactful single trait in NBA history when you consider the context of that era and that it led to 12 number one defenses in 13 years by far and 11 titles in 13 years, even if you were bad defensively. I think that I got two of the top three. I think Steph's three-point shooting, Shaq's rim pressure,
right.
Bill Russell's rim protection.
I'm going to take
top three superpowers.
I'm going to take Jokic's court vision and passing.
Interesting. I was thinking about taking another Jokic trait with my next
Don't. That's my next pick.
Well, you can't have multiple Jokic traits on your team. I guess you can.
What?
Well, it's just a little boring, I guess, to just build Nikola Jokic, but that, to me, it's an interesting pick. The reason that I was going to go with something else from Jokic is that I actually don't think Jokic is the greatest passer in NBA history. I think he's the second greatest passer. There's another thing that I think he is easily the best at in NBA history, so I am going to take it. I'm going to take Jokic's paint touch. The guy literally shoots 65% on crazy volume from inside the paint, outside the restricted area every year. Nobody else comes close to the touch that he has on floaters and hooks, and I'm going to take that. I think it's one of the most clear superpowers where just like one guy's above everybody else in NBA history.
Is this my last pick?
No, we're going 5 picks.
I've got 2 more? Okay.
Yeah, you got 2 more. I mean, I'm cooking you right now.
I'm going to take LeBron's intellect. Give me LeBron's brain.
Okay. LeBron's brain. That's for a different show,
Whoa!
my friend. That is for a different
Pipe down,
show.
young man. Pipe down, young man.
That's a good pick. I mean, LeBron's super smart. I do think there are some guys who are comparably smart.
I was thinking about taking
history.
Dre's defensive IQ or something like that.
Yeah, I actually had KG's defensive IQ down as one of mine as well. I think either one of those would be pretty good. Damn, I mean, I've got a lot left that I want out there. Maybe I shouldn't have taken Jokic's paint touch just because we both took a Jokic trait, which is kind of a glaze, but I feel good about it. I'm caught between an individual move and a trait. I'm going to take peak MJ's first step. I think when you compare his quickness at that time to everybody else in the league, when you're talking about MJ in his first handful of years in the league, it's completely absurd, and it made him the best rim pressuring and rim finishing guard we have ever seen.
I was gonna take MJ's aura. Like, what is his first step if he doesn't have any aura, though?
I'm cooking you in this draft. You're on to aura. You only get 5 picks, and you're gonna go with aura.
I'm taking Andre Drummond's rebounding. You just got cooked.
He's
friend.
tanking. He's tanking.
You got cooked.
You're literally tanking. You're tanking in the NBA Superpowers draft.
Dude, I have Drummond's rebounding, Wemby's frame.
Andre Drummond's not the best
passing.
rebounder in NBA history.
Bruh.
Are you aware of what Wilt and Bill Russell were doing on the glass?
Oh, I told you. I only wrote
Get ready to
down
learn
active...
25 rebounds a game.
I thought we were doing active players.
Well, yeah, but you don't still think that.
Give me Amen Thompson.
That's hella pick. Fuck. I mean, my hands are tied here. God damn, that's a good pick. In totality, what an athlete, what a guy.
Yeah, give me Amen Thompson's athleticism.
All right. I'll give you his all-around athleticism, even though I think peak LeBron circa 2009.
Dude, I've got a men's
or
athleticism
even
in
2012
Wemby's
is a better
body
athlete.
with Steph shooting. It's actually raps for you, bro. In LeBron's brain.
Well,
Come
I don't think
on.
we're building one player here. I think we're
have
just
built
getting the
a
superpowers.
Voltron.
Okay,
A
I have the greatest
Voltron.
rim pressure of all time, the greatest rim protector of all time, the
can't
greatest
shoot,
paint
and he
touch,
can't
and I have the
shoot.
fastest. I'm not building one player here, bro. We're taking superpowers. All right, I'm going to tell you everything else that I had down, just so we can get through all the considerations and to shout out some superpowers. Magic's passing. I'm not going to take passing because you already took Jokic's passing. I was considering either Magic or LeBron just for their transition play. That one's pretty compelling. I considered Shai's shiftiness and balance, just kind of Shai's movement style. Realistically, is it clear of MJ's, though?
Jose Calderon's free throw shooting.
That's true. Jose Calderon, 98% from the line. I considered that. Kareem's sky hook and Harden's step back three, I both had down
Dirk's
as just
fade?
like the two most unguardable moves. Dirk's fade is incredible, but my thing is a fadeaway. If you're awesome at it, it's going to be a 50% shot. You get me Kareem's sky hook, he's 58%.
Well, I think you made the right pick with
away.
Jokic's paint touch over any of those.
Yeah, I think so. Harden's step back three is crazy, though. I mean, they are guarding that dude from behind. He can get it at any time. I considered Nash's overall pick and roll game. I considered KG's defensive IQ. I considered Zion's rim pressure from the perimeter. I'm not going to take two different forms of rim pressure if I only have 5 picks, though. I considered Kevin McHale or Akeem's post bag, just the totality of their footwork and counters out of the post. And then I considered Kyrie's ball handling. I ended up going with him. I think there are a few guys who you could suggest
Darius
for handle,
Garland.
Honestly, if I'm going to take one superpower, I'm just going to take Kareem Skyhook. It's legitimately unbelievable. Nobody could affect it. His touch, once you get to like the late 70s with the Lakers, was so absurd. The only possible option was to be physical, to knock him off balance, knock him off his spot. Nobody was going to legitimately contest it, outside of maybe Wilt when they clashed in the early years. But that ability to just out of the post manufacture a shot that's high percentage. Yeah, I've got a couple of paint touch based traits here, but I think Jokic and Kareem Skyhook, those to me are different enough that I'll take them. Out of all the ones that I listed, is there any that you would have taken over Kareem's Skyhook? Maybe Andre Drummond's rebounding? Dennis Smith Jr.'s ability to sling that wood in his pants?
Halliburton's selflessness. I mean, come on, man.
Halliburton's
I don't know how that wasn't mentioned.
Halliburton's whimsy actually probably should have gone.
True.
He plays the game with such a joy.
Well, when I was thinking about active guys, I was going to go with Zion rim pressuring or dunking or something like that. Like I said, I wrote down SGA's slitheriness. I don't know if you could can you encompass that's what I was wondering about with SGA when I was thinking about this, because I wanted something of his, but is there even like a catch all that you can put like is it change in pace?
That's why I was just like
slitheriness?
His movement style, because I think it's all of it. It's the balance, it's the shiftiness, it's the change in pace, it's the quickness at top speed, it's the ability to vary stride lengths, the footwork. Like, it's a little tough to put all under one umbrella, in my opinion. But I do think that the way that SGA moves is something sexual. Did you consider Donovan Mitchell's meat?
Let's move on, bro. You
All
need
right.
some help. I thought about Dennis Smith Jr.'s. All right, that was mine.
Yeah, you're the one who started this whole thing, bro. Who's scoring big in the NBA this season? You are, with all the new ways to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From monster slams to dishing the rock to cleaning the glass, get behind your favorite players and the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props.
Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like picking how many points your favorite player will have. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. First timers, here's something special just for you. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly.
Take it to the rack with DraftKings Sportsbook. Every point counts. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code NERDS. That's code NERDS for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, let's talk about NFL free agency winners and losers. Now, free agency is not over yet, but a bulk of the notable free agents have been signed. We did a check-in on Monday when things were getting kicked off. Now we've got more deals to talk about. So we've each got a few winners, a few losers of free agency so far. Who would you like to shout out as your first winner, Logan?
I'm going to shout out your Buffalo Bills, Carson. I think
Hell
they
yeah, brother.
crushed it with a couple of their moves. One, To go and get Joey Bosa, I thought he was a very big fish in this market. It addressed, in my opinion, Buffalo's biggest need of the offseason, which is a high-end edge rusher who can exert pressure on the quarterback. Like, if you're going to look at any hole on this team, that was it to me. Not only that, they also go out and get a former Steeler that I love, Larry Ogunjobi. I think that's another huge ad for the Bills. Like, Larry O was at his peak in Cleveland, but he's been really good. Honestly, is like a depth lineman for Pittsburgh. Not that he didn't play at all, but they used him more as a rotational D lineman, and I would have had Ogunjobi out there way more. And so I think to get that guy as, again, I don't think he's going to be an every down guy here for Buffalo either, because you've got a guy like Ed Oliver, and maybe Buffalo brings Jordan Phillips back too. But to get two really good defensive linemen, I thought that was the biggest glaring weak spot on your team. I think the Bills have crushed this. I'd like them to bring back Amari Cooper or bring in another high-end wideout, but I don't think that's as big of a need when you've got a guy like Josh Allen. So I think they addressed their biggest need. And to get a guy like Bosa, to get a guy like Larry O, I think they're home run moves.
Yeah, I really, really like the Bosa addition, especially. It's 1 year, it's $12.5 million. So the risk there is low. And this was a big position of need for the Bills. I was hoping that maybe they could hit a home run to address it and get Myles Garrett, but obviously that didn't transpire. Nobody got Myles Garrett via trade. So I think that they did a really nice job considering that those sort of home run additions were off the table. And like Joey Bosa is still a very good player when he's healthy. Is he what he was at his peak? No, he's obviously regressed, but he was still 22nd in pass rush win rate among all defensive linemen last year. Productive. I think he's a better run defender than he is a pass rusher, but we've seen it too many times where the Bills just cannot get pressure off the edge in these big matchups, particularly against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, that had to be addressed in one way or another. And if Joey Bosa stays healthy, then this should be the best edge tandem that the Bills have had. This was the vision years ago with Von Miller, who was playing really well for 10 games, and then he got hurt and wasn't the same, and they let him go rightfully this offseason. But even with the health concerns, it's short term. It's not a lot of money. Like, it's just a low risk, high reward deal for them, which I really like. And then you mentioned the signings. I'm not in love with giving Josh Palmer 3 years, $36 million. I'm okay with it. I think the Bills had to add receiver talent this offseason. And I think Palmer is solid. I think that he can separate. I think that he can stretch the field out a bit, which is something that the Bills room would definitely benefit from adding. It's just that $12 million a year is not nothing. And so the dollar value is a little bit high per year, but I'm good with it. And I think that the Bills nailed a lot of the stuff around it. Like, they keep Ty Johnson. That rocks. He's such a good receiving back, third down back for them. And when you're looking at the receiver room, maybe they overpaid Josh Palmer by a bit, but I think that they got incredible value on Khalil Shakir. 4 years, $60 million, up to $60 million. Like, you're getting him for half the dollar value of like a DJ Moore. I like that. I don't think that Khalil Shakir is as good as DJ Moore. I don't think he's all that close, but like, I think ideally he's a really high-end number 2, and I think that's what they're paying him like. And for now, he'll be their number 1 until they find that guy. And then they also extended Greg Rousseau for 4 years up to $80 million, which is a solid contract to me. That puts him outside the top 10 highest paid edges. He is relatively young. He is really talented. It's a reasonable price. I just need Rousseau to have one of those big games in a key spot, because he just hasn't had the production against the Chiefs that the Bills would need to win one of those matchups. But again, now it's like you don't need him to be an ace number 1 week after week. He is your best pass rusher, but Bosa's not that far behind. And so hopefully in totality, you get more production from those two. They retained key players. They made upgrades on the margins. So if you win 13 games, lose an AFC title game at the last minute, and you're able to maintain your key strengths, upgrade your biggest need in terms of edge rusher, that's a good free agency. And I think the Bills had a good free agency. I do think there are some things that still need to be addressed. Want to see them go safety, want to see them go corner, because Rasul Douglas still unsigned, probably not coming back to the Bills, although we don't know for sure. But they have to find somebody. in terms of a corner. And then I do want to still see them get another receiver relatively early in the draft. Those, to me, are the three priorities. And if they hit on those reasonably well, Bills could be your Super Bowl favorite next year. I think that they've definitely done a really good job of positioning themselves to be even better next year, which, again, isn't easy to do coming off of the success that they had. I had them down as a winner as well. Who is another free agency winner to you?
The biggest winner, arguably, of NFL free agency had to be Dan Moore Jr. from the Steelers.
Oh, my God.
Carson, it's the most confusing contract I think I've ever seen in my history of being on this earth. There's, like, contracts that went south really fast. Von Miller, Albert Haynesworth, right? Le'Veon Bell to the Jets. There's a lot that you can point to where you're like, wow, they paid that free agent they thought was going to be great, and they just got screwed. Dan Moore Jr.'s never been a good tackle a day in the NFL. He's had good games before, but like over a season or over multiple weeks, Dan Moore Jr. has never been a good NFL player. Right now, as it stands in free agency, Dan Moore got the fourth highest total dollar amount of any contract handed out in free agency so far. 4 years, $82 million. I tweeted out some of the guys that he's making more money than next season. Quentin Nelson, former All-Pro guard, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, two of the best running backs in football. Carson, you want to take a guess at how many sacks Dan Moore allowed last season?
I'm going to say 12.
16 and a half.
Jeez Louise.
The most in the NFL last season by a tackle. Basically, the guy lining up across from Dan Moore Jr., if you had him for every single game, would have been equivalent to the second best edge rusher in the NFL by sacks. Now, granted, he allowed 14 pressures by advanced stats, so I do think it's fair to say that some of the sacks were probably on Russell Wilson and some of them were on Justin Fields. But I'm telling you, as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan who has legitimately watched every snap of Dan Moore Jr.'s career, he is bad. He is not good at football, and I get the Titans are not coming from a place of they had one of the worst offensive lines in the league last year. Like, he's a step up from Nicolas Petit-Frere, but he's not a major step up. You're still in the basement. And to give this guy over $20 million a year, he's bad. He's bad. He's not a good tackle. I thanked the football gods that he is no longer a Pittsburgh Steeler. I don't know, Carson. I'm confused. I'm very confused as to what the Tennessee Titans saw in this guy.
It's definitely the craziest contract of free agency so far, and I had the Titans down as a loser just because they paid him that much, and then they haven't really done anything else of any significance.
They got Zeitler, which I do like. I mean, Zeitler's an older guard. He's really good, but, I mean, this to me makes you an automatic loser.
It's crazy, man. He is going to be the sixth highest paid left tackle in football, behind Trent Williams, Christian Darrisaw, Laramie Tunsil, Andrew Thomas, and Jordan Mailata.
I mean, all those guys are arguably
elite.
Yeah, like, and even, if you think Tunsil's regressed a little bit, like, they're all arguable franchise left tackles, right?
Yeah, they've all had seasons where they were, like, all-pro caliber or very, very highly ranked at the position. So I think that is an insane contract. Shout out to you, Dan. Get your bag, bro. Go have a little fun with it. Go have some fun in Tennessee. Maybe make a country album. I don't know. There's a whole lot you can do. Your money will go far, but I think that's an absolutely wild contract. My second winner, maybe the biggest winner of free agency to me, the Denver Broncos. I just think that they really nailed this, bringing in Dre Greenlaw on a 3-year deal, bringing in Hufanga on a 3-year deal worth up to $45 million.
That rookie
Those are
QB
two awesome
contract,
football players.
man. That rookie QB contract opens up everything.
Opens up a whole lot, man, and they are taking advantage of it. Those are two really good defensive players. You strengthen your linebacking core. You improve over the middle of the field defensively, which I think was an area that they were looking to improve. They have the best secondary in the NFL now, right? With Pat Surtain, with Brandon Jones, with Hufanga. Like, they just have so much talent there. So this defense that was already on the short list for being the best in football just got significantly better, in my opinion, and now I would just say outright should be the best defense in football. It's hard to replicate defensive results year over year in the NFL, but when you're that great defensively and then your talent gets significantly better, like, The expectation is that they will be a dominant defense. And then offensively, I like them bringing in Evan Ingram for 2 years, $23 million. I think that he can still be productive. I think that that is not an overpay. So dominant defense. You've improved your pass catchers, which obviously was an area that they wanted to address alongside Cortland Sutton. You already have an elite offensive line, and you've got a really, really good head coach and play caller. They put together a really good roster. Now, I think everybody knows how I feel about Bo Nix, but they have put a lot of dudes around him at like basically every position. So they should absolutely be right back in the playoffs, and they should be better than they were this year, 100%.
Yeah, I had them down as a winner too, and I love the defensive moves that they made to an already really good defense. But I really like the Evan Ingram move specifically because games I would watch a Bo, I watched a couple like of all Bo's throws, and the thing that bothered me the most about this offense was how many formations I saw with Adam Troutman, with Michael Burton, with Nate Adkins, with Lucas Kroll, with these like non-factor offensive players. And I don't mean to pick on those guys, but it's like you're trotting out all these formations with tight end threes or fullback twos, and we're throwing the ball. And it's like, I mean, yeah, I guess they're good for a 3-yard gain out of the backfield or a throw in the flat. I want somebody with a little pop, with a little firepower. And I know Ingram can have some issues with his hands. The guy's still a big play threat. He's got legitimate explosiveness to him and real vertical spacing, which is what I really think the Broncos offense needs more of. Just guys downfield that can actually make an impact. And so the Broncos were another winner that I had. I think they've crushed it so far. And the final winner that I had written down was the Minnesota Vikings. We're talking about rookie quarterback contracts right now. It's not a foregone conclusion yet that J.J. McCarthy is going to be the guy. Honestly, the biggest rumor that I'm hearing today is that Aaron Rodgers is waiting on the Minnesota Vikings to make a decision on him.
That'd be pretty fun, man. I mean, just completing the Favre arc would actually be so incredible.
It's awesome. It's so poetic. Also, in the way that it ended in the exact same ways, like, well, not the exact. Basically you get one healthy year in New York that is an absolute disaster.
But let's get the MVP caliber year out of Rodgers.
That would be nice.
Let's get the 33 touchdowns to 7 picks, 2009
Dude,
Favre
that
season.
year was the most efficient year of Brett Favre's career ever.
Yeah.
That year in Minnesota. It's kind of crazy to think about, despite him winning 3 MVPs.
And less efficient than like 8 Rodgers seasons. But that's just a Rodgers thing, man.
So that's fascinating to me that it's not him picking between the Giants or the Steelers. He's waiting on the Vikings to make a decision. So we'll see what happens with that.
Giants? That just is such an unappealing football situation to me.
But the moves that they've made outside of that, I think they've already crushed. Getting Will Fries and Ryan Kelly to upgrade and bolster your line. Anytime, this is just the thing I'd say about any NFL team. Anytime an NFL team invests in the big boys on the offensive line or the big boys on the D line, I'm going to get fired up. I'm going to think you did a good job. They got Fries and Kelly on the O-line. They got Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave on the D-line, and this is already a loaded defense. They bring back Byron Murphy. You're talking about the Broncos being the best defense in the NFL. I think the Vikings are on that short list of teams that could be there. So these are teams that had great, almost aberrations of seasons, right? Like anomalies of seasons last year, considering their expectations, right? I thought the Vikings were going to win 7 games. I thought the Broncos were going to win 5. These are teams that already overachieved last season that I think are primed to be even better next season. Obviously, I think a lot of it is contingent on if Bo Nix improves on a rookie campaign, on if J.J. McCarthy comes out and looks like an NFL caliber quarterback in year 1. But all the moves around them, I've loved so far. So those are all my winners. Do you have any more?
I think that the Vikings are a phenomenal shout. I think that depending on the level that they get from whoever is their quarterback, they could easily be better this year than last year. And if they do get Aaron Rodgers, I'd support it because I think that Rodgers in this situation could replicate Darnold's production from last year. And then the defense was awesome. Maybe you can't expect them to be better even though they're more talented, but they are more talented up front, absolutely. Offensively, you think that you'll be healthier this year. Your line is even better. Your skill position talent is elite. And like Rodgers, I know he has his issues, but he can still process the game. He can still make a lot of throws from inside the pocket. And if you can really protect him and give him the best receiver in football and a really good receiving core in totality and a great play caller, like that could make the Vikings the NFC favorite to me. JJ, I don't know what level he'll be at. I understand them not wanting to commit any money elsewhere at the quarterback position when they have him on this rookie deal. And if that is their approach, well, then I think that they absolutely made the most out of their ability to spend with that rookie quarterback and put him in the best position possible to win a whole lot of games for you and prove what level he is at. Because considering how they have progressed since letting Darnold go, I think that they were absolutely right to do so and not invest $35 million a year in Darnold, even though he did have a good season. I do have one more winner, and they're elsewhere in the NFC North. We actually already talked about this team on Monday, but I just love what the Bears did. I think they rebuilt that offensive line beautifully. It was a disastrous group last year. Now they bring in Tooney, they bring in Jonah Jackson, they bring in Drew Dahlman. And it was really all about the interior because the interior was horrible last season. Their tackles were already pretty good with Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright. Now, I feel like this could go from a bottom 5 offensive line to legitimately one of the better offensive lines in football. So that to me is so exciting just because the receiving talent is there. Caleb is so talented, but he needs time to throw the football. He needs to speed up his decision making. He needs to get more accurate. But if you can just protect him and you give him a play caller like Ben Johnson, I said this on Monday, but I think that he could have a huge leap in year 2. And I like what they did on the defensive line too, with Grady Jarrett, with Odi Yingbo. So I think in the trenches they've improved. I'm good with them letting Keenan Allen go. They bring in a cost-effective option in Zacchaeus. They already have Rome Odunze and DJ Moore, so they've got the receiver talent. I've been really impressed with what they did. I think that this should absolutely be a playoff team next year because the defensive infrastructure is already there. I think they added a little bit of talent. Offensively, they dramatically improved in the trenches. They bring in the offensive mind, Caleb's natural progression, plus the situation improving. They should be at least an average offense, and I would say even better than that. I think they should be a good football team and should be in the playoffs. You're not all the way there?
I'm probably going to pick the Bears to win 8 to 9 wins. There's just this stank of franchise incompetence that I can't get over. I think they've made a...
They reek?
They stink. They stink. There's a stench. There's a cloud over Chicago.
They got a room-clearing odor?
All I'm saying is I'm optimistic. Like, they've definitely made tangible improvement, getting Ben Johnson, building the lineup. That's just a tough-ass division. I just wouldn't. That's the only reason I'm hesitant to say that any team in the NFC North is like a lock for the playoffs for me next year outside of Detroit. Like, I could see, it's just almost inevitable that one of Green Bay, one of Minnesota, one of Chicago is going to be somebody's got to round up the rear with 6 to 8 wins, and I would probably bet that it's still Chicago if I had to bet today. But I have liked a lot of the moves they've made.
It's a very, very fair point. I could see them ending up with 8-9 wins just because they go 1-5, 2-4 in their division.
But I mean, they are going to have the benefit of a 4th place schedule because they came in last year. They do have the benefit of a 4th place schedule. They do have that benefit, and I don't think the NFC South is going to offer a really compelling wild card candidate. The NFC West, I think the Rams are the best team in that division. Outside of that, there's a lot of flaws. Now, the NFC East, you would think the Eagles and Commanders would be in strong position to both make it again. And the Cowboys, obviously, will be healthier, and they'll be better than they were last year. So, all right, maybe saying they should make the playoffs is ambitious. They can. They should be in the mix. They'll be in the hunt.
They should absolutely be in the hunt. Let's talk about losers, Logan. Who just got screwed in this free agency?
I've got 2 really, really big losers. The first has to be the San Francisco 49ers. I think they are the biggest loser of free agency to me. It's just so many catastrophic losses for them in terms of players. Aaron Banks, guard, going to the Packers. Charvarius Ward in the secondary, going to the Colts. Hufanga, as we mentioned, and Greenlaw both going to the Broncos. Hargrave to Minnesota. Deebo Samuel to the Commanders. Leonard Floyd to the Falcons. Just as a fundamental idea of free agency, I don't like that much roster turnover, period, with a team when you're losing this many starters and impact players. Like, Okay, Debo isn't what he once was, right? Leonard Floyd isn't what he once was, right? That's still guys that are exiting that you're going to have to find replacements for. And I actually think they can replace Debo fairly easily. I think with what we got last year out of Pearsall and Jennings, I think the Niners will be okay offensively, but defensively, I'm a little worried. And the biggest reason that they're a loser is because all of these moves are being made because they're going to pay Brock Purdy after this season. I mean, the writing's on the wall. You can kind of tell with how they're operating. The money's going to tell you everything you need to know, and I think the primary reason that they're not extending these guys or paying them is because they're going to pay Brock Purdy. Now, granted, they were going to have to let some of these guys go anyway. They've got a lot of guys on big contracts. Trent Williams, Brandon Ayuk, Bosa. Like, they're paying a lot of guys anyway. They had to let Chuck walk as well. I hope the Steelers sign him. I think he would be an awesome pickup for us. But the big thing is that they're clearing the way so they can pay Brock Purdy next season, and I think that is going to be a fundamental misstep for the San Francisco 49ers. I would not pay Brock Purdy like one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. I would be comfortable paying him a Baker Mayfield, a Sam Darnold size contract where it's in that $30 to $35 million range. When we exit that is where I am worried. And yeah, I think they're going to pay him $50 million. I think it's going to compound all the losses that they've made. And I really don't like the Niners' future, man. This has been a team that has been as rock steady as any franchise in the NFL over the last 5 years. And I think their days are numbered.
I think they're pretty fucked, man. And I would be okay in a vacuum with the vision of saying, okay, yes, we're hemorrhaging talent this year, but we don't want to overpay to keep certain guys, especially if they're aging or they have injury questions. If it's Javon Hargrave with his injuries, Leonard Floyd with his age, Dre Greenlaw with his injury, whatever. Like, in a vacuum, okay, you could say, we're not going to overcommit to those guys. We're going to bank on our elite coaching, which they have with Kyle Shanahan and with Robert Saleh now as their defensive coordinator. And we think that our strengths are certain elite players at certain positions, Trent Williams and Nick Bosa, obviously, and Fred Warner and George Kittle and CMC. That's going to give us a high enough floor, and then we can kind of use this as a reset year, and we can draft really well, and we can reboot, and then we'll have a bright future. The reason that I don't think that works here in San Francisco is you're 1 year away from Brock Purdy all of a sudden being a quarterback who you're paying $50 million. And I think that that's clearly what they're building to here with the fact that they are being so conservative in terms of long-term financial commitments to some really good football players who they did let walk. And that to me is just a disaster. I don't think that Brock is worth that contract. And to me, this is the last year that you are getting of him on a small deal. You need to be trying to maximize that season and maintain as much talent as you can for that season, because this really should be your last ride at it with Brock Purdy. And the fact that they are approaching this from the exact opposite perspective of we are going to sacrifice to prioritize Brock Purdy, to me is just a disaster. It seems to completely ignore what they just did, getting over Jimmy Garoppolo and then putting together a better team by finding a quarterback in the 7th round, but being elite at so many other positions. And it's disappointing because I think Shanahan is an awesome coach. I think the Niners could still have elite talent if they were willing to not devalue the quarterback position, because like it matters in big games to have a high-end guy, but the reason that they've been able to win in double digits so consistently with limited quarterback play is because they're so good everywhere else. And the second they lose the strength of the totality of that roster, the second they stop being a serious team.
It would be like the Vikings paying Sam Darnold, and it's like
paying Sam Darnold $50 million, not 30 or 35, well, 50.
And it goes back to what your friend said. I mean, all these guys are getting paid the same amount, so why would I pay Brock Purdy the same amount as I'm going to pay a Josh Allen or a Justin Herbert or a Joe Burrow? Like, I'm getting screwed with that kind of deal. And so I think it would be much smarter for the Niners to let the dice roll. We're going to end up with somebody. Maybe we draft a rookie. Maybe we trade for – That's the thing, man. The NFL moves really, really fast in the offseason, and there is going to be a guy that comes available. There is going to be a stopgap. There is going to be an option. And I like Brock Purdy. I like Brock Purdy a lot at $30 million. I don't like Brock Purdy at the $50 million price point. It's all about the Benjamins, and when it comes to Brock, I'd be a little bit more stingier with him.
100%. And maybe he doesn't end up getting 50, but if he doesn't get 40 plus, I'd be really surprised. And I just think
I would rather let
he's a
somebody else
mediocre
make that
starting
mistake,
quarterback.
man.
And I would bank on my elite coaching and our ability as an organization to identify and develop talent like they've been doing. And it is really discouraging to me that they're doing the opposite. I do think that their window is cooked. I think that it's over. And that's another thing. Like, how long is the window even
Oh no,
with
I would
Purdy
have.
going to be?
Well,
Like,
I was gonna
CMC
say,
might be done or
I was gonna say,
almost done.
this would be my fire sale if I was the Niners. I wouldn't pay Brock. I would trade Trent Williams. I would trade Christian McCaffrey. I would trade Nick Bosa. And like I understand this. This might sound hypocritical coming from a Pittsburgh Steelers fan because we don't have the quarterback. But it's like I don't feel like the Steelers are still that far away. I still think they've got a competitive window fairly for the next 3 to 4 years with how young their talent is. I don't see that window with the Niners at all. I think
No.
McCaffrey's getting older and more injury prone. I think Trent is getting older and more injury prone. I think Bosa too. Like it's falling apart.
It is.
A team that never had it, and I think is a big loser, is the New York Football Jets. And it's not really specifically any damning moves that they made. It's the moves that they made prior to these guys leaving the building. Aaron Rodgers is a free agent. This is a guy they gave up a first round, a second round, or 2 second-round picks up for. I get that they swap basically, so instead of Luka Van Ness, they get Will McDonald. So that's a bit of a wash because they swap firsts. But the Packers used that second-round pick to get Luke Musgrave, who's a solid tight end. You could have used that pick and still had him on a rookie contract on your roster. More importantly, the other second-round pick that they traded away to Green Bay was traded to the Saints, and that pick was used to get Edgerrin Cooper, who is a stud inside linebacker. So you've just gifted away capital for a guy that is no longer on your roster, where you could have 3 players on rookie deals that impact winning. Hassan Reddick, who you traded for last year, you gave up a 26th third-round pick, barely played for you, low impact. He's gone to Tampa Bay. Devontae Adams, you gave up a 25 this year third-round pick to the Raiders for basically a little over 10 games, and he is now a Ram. More importantly, I think the biggest position group where they needed to invest in, they haven't upgraded at all. That's the offensive line. So the Jets gave up a lot of picks for players that are no longer on their roster. To be exact, 5 of them. Yeah, that's important. That's 5 players on budget contracts for 4 to 5 years that you don't have to pay. 5 roster spots of guys that should be on your roster. Any guy drafted in the first 3 rounds should be on your roster for 4 to 5 years. Like, you can't miss those picks, and you just gifted them away. And they didn't upgrade their offensive line. So, it's not like the Jets made any, like, catastrophically bad salary cap decisions or anything like that. And I actually do like the decision to sign Aaron Glenn over from Detroit. I would have liked it more if they just never fired Robert Saleh, but that's besides the point. So, the Jets didn't make any catastrophically bad decisions, but it's kind of all the decisions they made leading up to this free agency. And again, I think they should have invested into their offensive line more. But, yeah, as always, the Jets are a loser. What's new?
Yeah, this to me is more just they made their own grave a while back, and now here they are to lay in it. Like, I don't think that they've really done anything too bad this offseason. I would like to see the offensive line improve. I think the Fields signing is a good one. I think that there's a lot of polarizing Justin Fields discourse right now. I feel like I land in the middle, where I think he'll probably be, I don't know, the 24th best starter in football this year.
I think he'll be a little, I think, yeah, that's probably about right. I'd say somewhere between 18 and 24, depending on what version you get out of him.
Yeah, there's just a lot of really solid quarterbacks. I mean, we learned that when we went through and ranked all 32 starters. So I still obviously have questions about his polish as a passer, but I think that he clearly showed improvement last year, and he is a really high-end athlete. So if you're getting a solid starting quarterback for $20 million a year, like, that's a good contract, right? That's not an overpay in today's NFL, in my opinion. And obviously the Rodgers thing, they just had to move on from. So I certainly don't think he's the savior. I also don't think it was a bad move to get him. The problem is just Justin Fields is very much going to be a product of your situation. He is not somebody who can rise above and elevate and this is not a good situation for him. So he may very well end up looking worse than he actually is because of the Jet situation, and they just put themselves in a really, really bad spot. They had a lot that they needed to improve this offseason, and no, I don't think that they've really done that. I have another loser here, Logan, who they're in a much better spot.
Go for it. No, I know who you're going to say. Go for it. They deserve to be here.
Okay, I thought maybe you were going to say never doubt them. I think the Kansas City Chiefs lost this free agency.
I do too.
I do like what they did adding Jalen Moore to be your left tackle. I think that they upgraded that position, but they also downgraded the offensive line overall because they ditched Joe Thuney just to save some money when he is still an elite guard to me. That was not a good move in my opinion, especially when it's to prioritize paying a guy like Nick Bolton who had a rough season.
Yeah, or Trey Smith.
Trey Smith I do think is good. I still think Thuney's better, but Bolton just wasn't very good. And they lose Justin Reed, who was solid.
That was the one that surprised
over
me.
Bolton.
I completely agree.
So it's nothing like glaring. I just don't like the guys that they prioritized. And as we always say, man, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And the Kansas City Chiefs certainly did not get better this offseason. And I do think that they got a bit worse. And talking about the Bills really liking what they did, like that to me is the biggest measuring stick. Those two teams are the top two in the AFC probably. And then you include the Ravens as a member of that top three. I do think the Chiefs offense could definitely be better next year because I think the receiving room just could actually be pretty sick with Hollywood Brown healthy, with Rashee Rice back, and with year two Worthy. Like that definitely is a strength that should develop for them. But I think the offensive line got a little worse. I think the defense got a little worse. So I think they took a slight step back.
Yeah, if there's a team that I'm going to believe in that can overcome and get guys up to speed faster than anybody else, it definitely is Kansas City. But yeah, I mean, it's like the NBA. It's like any sport. Yeah, if you aren't getting better, you are effectively getting worse. And they lose Tershawn Wharton to Carolina. I think he was impactful on the defensive line last year. They lose D-Hop to Baltimore. That one's not as big of a deal.
Yeah. Super cheap deal, though.
Yeah.
1 year, $5 million. I mean, obviously, I know his production was very lackluster, but I would have given that to D-Hop.
I think it's Reed and Thuney that are the biggest losses. I mean, you're losing a staple of your secondary and a staple of your offensive line. And anytime you're losing building block pieces, you just got to be a little worried. I mean, these are like some of the most high-impact guys for them over the past 2 to 3 years, and they're walking out of the door. Again, Kansas City normally crushes the draft. They normally, this is a franchise that I think has earned your respect and your belief in them. But that being said, I thought last year that the Chiefs were a little vulnerable when it came to like the Super Bowl, and like they weren't perfect, but it's bigger now. I don't know if there's a gap, and like you said, I don't know if I would put the Chiefs number one. Like I think that the Chiefs are. We'll see what happens in the draft. We'll see what position groups they attack and what players they need, because that's ultimately when we'll really start digging our heels in on where we think these teams are. But I've picked the Chiefs every single year, that we've been up there. I think this year I may be going in a different direction just because I could see Buffalo addressing their biggest needs. I could see Baltimore revamping. I could see – is there anybody else in the AFC that I'm really – those are definitely the two big dogs.
I agree. I think right now Buffalo should be the favorite over them. I understand that I'm a Bills fan, so maybe people won't agree. But
I don't think it's if Buffalo can get another safety, man. I don't want DeMar Hamlin starting. If they can secondary, like you said earlier, if they can get a corner in a safety. I just wish they hadn't taken fucking Elam, man. If they had just taken a guy who was like NFL caliber, like they'd be. That guy's unplayable, man. I mean, he's not on the roster anymore, but he was legitimately unplayable.
Only they had gotten Trent McDuffie, the Bills would be Super Bowl champions by now. But I do think, as you say, Patrick Mahomes is the great equalizer. And Andy Reid and the organizational competence of the Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo, they will provide such a high floor that this team should win 12 games and they'll win at least one playoff game. So when we talk about the Chiefs as losers, it's important to acknowledge that, like, That's the standard. The standard is 5 Super Bowl appearances in 7 years and 7 straight AFC title games. They are always expected to replicate that, and I think this year will be something of a challenge for them to do so. Although people have said that in recent years, but I do think that this year more so than in previous years. Any other losers that stand out to you, Logan?
Not any big time losers. I was going to say I do like the Steelers. Just as an update on some of the moves they've been making, I do like that they brought Mason Rudolph back in as a backup. I really hope if he's our starter. I mean, 9-8 has never looked so sexy, guys. I mean, wow.
My God.
How about that?
There's no way he's going to be your starter. If he is, if you have the opportunity, you should kill yourself.
I might take it. I might just take it, man. I could, you know what? I would stomach. I'll say. I mean, I could definitely stomach a full season of Mason. Probably more than Russell Wilson would drive me insane. I don't want Russ back. I'm not.
Aaron Rodgers.
I'm not as excited about Kenny Pickett. He's going to come back to Pittsburgh and whip our ass for the one time with the Cleveland Browns. Super Bowl champ Kenny Pickett, that guy. Shout out the Browns for getting him, man. That dude's getting passed around like a joint.
Good quarterback.
The Steelers are a loser until they get their quarterback. And I swear to God, man, if we draft Jackson Dart or Will Howard, bro, we're screwed. We're so cooked. Like, that's another thing, man. The fact that Najee is gone now and Kenny Pickett is gone now, I talked about Elam not being on the roster. You can't miss on your early picks, dude. Like,
No.
It's so infuriating. Those are two guys that didn't make it through the rookie contracts to a sec. You can't do that in the NFL. Like, that is a damning thing. If you are a general manager and your first or second round picks aren't getting extended by your own franchise, you are giving away capital. And I think that the Steelers are currently reaping what they've sowed. So I hope we get Aaron Rodgers, I guess.
Wow. You're all the way there.
I don't want Russ. I don't really want Mason Rudolph.
I think it's right. I would want Rodgers above the alternatives.
Dude, I was telling Mark, because Mark's a Browns fan, I was like, damn it, dude, I'd rather have Kenny Pickett still in the house.
We rock with Mark.
We rocking with Mark because Mark's rocking with us.
Yep.
I want Aaron Rodgers. That's where I'm at.
I'm happy for you, but I'm also sad for you because I know that means you've reached such a dark place.
Have you seen these pictures of Rodgers on the beach?
No, I don't want to.
They're so funny, dude. Somebody has to be doing PR for this guy. He's like looking. He's got his wired headphones in with his backwards cap and a beach towel on. He's looking all. He's looking.
Holy shit! He looks so introspective.
Hey, dude, right? Have you ever seen that cow on the beach where it's like I may be cringe,
Logan,
but
that
I'm free?
is not a nice way to describe a woman. Oh, I'm sorry.
He looks like that cow looking out at the water.
I mean, these are absurd, bro. What is he doing?
He knows that somebody's taking a picture.
100%.
That's what makes him so
wistful
funny.
Look in his eye, like bro is literally looking to the sea and the moon and the tides for guidance as he makes a huge life decision.
But it's like manufactured introspection. It's not even natural.
I love this guy, dude. This guy cracks me all the way up. I'd want Aaron Rodgers to be my quarterback. Cal Bears legend.
He's such a drama queen.
He's so funny, bro. What is this also? The sleeves. This is so ridiculous. How cold is he? What beach is this? Are these the beaches of Scotland? They're stony and freezing and foggy. That's awesome. Actually, maybe they're Northern California beaches. I don't know. Shout out Aaron Rodgers. Shout out the Steelers. I will say...
He's so pensive, man. He's so
deep, bro. He's so deep. I don't love what the Texans have done. I just think their offensive line was already their biggest position group of need, and then you trade away Laramie Tunsil. I get you get back some good draft capital, but just weakening yourself at such a pivotal position group that's been an issue. I don't love that. I did like them getting Christian Kirk for a 7th rounder. It's just like a 1-year rental, and they restructured that contract.
How do they get all? Dude, they get all the wideouts that nobody wants. Yeah,
any receiver they want, they get him. And I don't love what the Seahawks did. We already talked about that, but I am a Geno believer. I would be more okay with them doing the Geno for Darnold swap to save a little and to get a younger guy if they hadn't also traded DK, because that to me is just like two conflicting timelines and motivations at once, where it's like, okay, we're trying to save, we don't want to pay this really good football player a lot of money, and we don't want to overpay our quarterback who's really good, but now we're going to bring in another quarterback who's a little bit worse, still pay him a lot, but now give him worse infrastructure when we already have a really bad offensive line and we're losing receiver talent. It's just weird to me. It feels like they had the potential to go more all in and be a really good team, and instead they didn't even pivot totally out of this window into a rebuild. They just kind of took a step backwards to being mediocre.
I agree with that. I don't think it makes sense. And even if you were just going to move on from just the timing, like you said, of the Darnold deal doesn't really make sense to me, because you had Geno on a lesser contract where it wasn't as risky, right? You have him on 1 year. If it doesn't work out, you just let him walk next year. Maybe that's it. Maybe they wanted to ensure that they got capital back for both DK and Geno because they knew they weren't going to be here long term. But no, it doesn't make much sense to me. And I do think that even if Darnold looks good, I think Darnold's going to look worse than he did in Minnesota.
These Aaron Rodgers pictures are killing me, man. How do they even find this guy?
I'm telling you, dude, like he had to bring a report. He's like, yo, can you I'm just going to go out on
Can you
get some
so
pics of me real
funny
quick?
if he arranged for it.
Had to, bro. Had to. Or
he's a special
someone's
talent.
just invading his privacy, in which I'm like, damn, man, this dude's just trying to vibe out on the beach.
Nah, I think
what do you think
he's posing no matter
what do you think
what.
he's listening to? What is he listening to?
He's probably listening to the Smiths, if I had to guess. No, he's probably listening to Mongolian throat singing, actually. He's probably channeling his inner chakra and finding his way with some god that we're not familiar with and that we couldn't even comprehend because we're such lowly beings.
Wouldn't get it.
And Aaron Rodgers is a celestial deity. Shout out to him, man. All right, guys, appreciate you tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, as always, there is plenty more Nerd Sesh content. Hopefully, again, by tomorrow, you guys will be able to watch the video breakdown I did of Celtics-Thunder, and the YouTube copyright gods will stop suppressing us. I did offer them Logan. I offered them Logan strewn across the bed with nothing but a leaf covering his cock and balls. They haven't gotten back to me on that yet, but hopefully by tomorrow morning they have accepted, and you guys can all have a lovely time together. I also offered them a smoked ham, but if I were them, I know which one I'd take. So stay locked in for that. You can listen to the show across all audio platforms, and you can find all of our full episodes about the NBA and NFL on our YouTube channel. You can also check us out across social, TikTok, Instagram at NerdSesh, Twitter at Nerd_Sesh to see clips from the show, graphics from the show, and all of our short-form trivia content. You can join our Discord if you want to become part of the gang over there. That is linked in our link tree, which is in all of our social media bios. And you can check out our merch. That's also in our link tree and at breakingtea.com. So with that, as always, appreciate you guys. I've been Carson Brabber.
I've been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.